There are moments in life when heaven pauses, when time itself seems to hold its breath because something sacred is about to unfold. This is one of those moments. You didn't arrive here by coincidence or curiosity. You were drawn here by divine appointment. Somewhere deep within your soul, you already know that this is not just another message. This is a call from eternity to awaken what God placed inside you long ago. For too long, you may have walked through seasons of waiting, of wondering, of asking when your breakthrough would come. You may have prayed through silence, endured through storms, and questioned whether God still remembered your name. But tonight, the whisper of heaven is clear. This is your final step. Everything you have walked through, every tear, every test, every delay was preparing you for this moment of divine release. There is a stirring in the spirit, a holy reminder that you are not ordinary, that you were never meant to merely survive. You were chosen to overflow. The same God who spoke light into darkness is now speaking abundance over your life. He is shifting you from struggle to strength, from wilderness to promise, from scarcity to divine overflow. The very air around you carries the sound of new beginnings. You can feel it in your spirit even now. Something is breaking open, something unseen is aligning, something greater is being released. So as you listen, do not let this be just words to your ears, but nourishment to your soul. Open your heart fully, because God is about to remind you who you are and what you carry. You are His chosen one. You are His vessel of abundance. And from this moment forward, your story will never look the same again. Stay with me till the end of this message, because before it's over, you will feel heaven move within you. You will know that what once felt distant has now arrived, and the overflow you've been waiting for is already yours. You are not here by chance or by the turn of some invisible wheel of fate. You are here because the hand of God designed your existence with intention. Before your first breath were drawn, before your eyes opened to the light of this world, heaven already knew your name. You were marked as chosen, not because of your strength, not because of your perfection, but because divine love saw something eternal within you. To be chosen is not a title of pride, but a call to purpose. It means that God has entrusted you with a piece of His eternal story, a fragment of His light meant to shine through your life. The world may never understand it, but heaven has already confirmed it. You were never ordinary, never meant to blend into the background of this fleeting life. You were called to stand apart, not in arrogance, but in divine distinction. Being chosen means you carry something sacred, a divine blueprint that guides your path even when you cannot see it clearly. Many live chasing purpose through achievements, wealth, or recognition, but those who are chosen understand that their worth cannot be measured by earthly standards. You are defined by the one who created you, not by the voices that try to label you. The chosen walk a road that is often misunderstood. You might have faced rejection, loss, and silence, not because you were forgotten, but because God was refining you in the quiet places where no one else could see. The world applauds visibility, but heaven treasures surrender. You were being prepared in hiddenness so that when the time of revealing comes, your light will not flicker. It will blaze. There is something deeply sacred about realizing that God's eyes have always been upon you. The storms that tried to break you were never meant to destroy you. They were shaping you into someone strong enough to carry His blessings. Every tear you cried, every disappointment you endured, every time you felt unseen, He was there, watching, molding, waiting for you to rise into the identity He placed within you. The chosen cannot be lost for long, for divine destiny always calls them back to the path. You may wander, but you will not be abandoned. You may stumble, but you will not fall beyond His reach. The mark of the chosen is resilience born from grace. This divine identity is not something you earn, it is something you awaken to. It begins when you stop asking, "Why me?" and start understanding, because God has a purpose for me. When you walk in that awareness, everything shifts. You no longer need to chase approval or validation. You no longer need to prove your worth. You begin to walk in quiet confidence, knowing that your steps are guided by something far greater than circumstance. To know you are chosen is to know you are loved beyond reason, called beyond comfort, and destined beyond limitation. The world may call it arrogance to believe you are chosen, but in truth, It is humility to accept what God has already declared. It takes courage to embrace your divine calling when everything around you tells you otherwise. Yet, that courage is what separates those who live in fear from those who walk in faith. Being chosen does not mean life will be easy. It means every challenge will carry meaning. You are not wandering in the dark. You are walking through divine preparation. When you finally see yourself as God sees you, the weight of every past mistake begins to fade. Shame loses its voice. Fear loses its grip. You begin to understand that your life is not random, it is divinely written. You were chosen to bring light where darkness rules, hope where despair whispers, and love where hearts have grown cold. You are not forgotten, not forsaken, not replaceable. You are chosen, and that truth is the foundation upon which abundance will flow. Every chosen soul walks through seasons that feel like silence from heaven. You pray with all your heart and hear nothing. You plant seeds of faith and see no harvest. You walk through doors that once open easily, only to find them locked. These moments are not signs of rejection but marks of refinement. God does not abandon his chosen ones, he prepares them. The process before the promise is never easy because it is meant to strip away everything that cannot survive the weight, what is coming. Before every elevation, there is a purification. God will not pour divine abundance into hearts still tied to fear, pride, or impatience. The fire you walk through is not to burn you, but to reveal what is eternal within you. In those quiet seasons, when nothing moves and everything feels uncertain, Haven is doing its deepest work. The silence of God is not absence but construction. He is building strength where weakness once lived. He is shaping character where you once sought comfort. The world may look at you and see delay, but heaven sees development. Every chosen one is taken through a wilderness before the promised land, not to be punished but to be prepared. In the wilderness, you learn dependence, humility, and the power of stillness. You learn that blessings without preparation can destroy you, and that waiting is not wasted time but sacred training. The process often hurts because it requires surrender. It demands the death of self-made plans and the quiet burial of old identities. Many people want the promise without the process, but the chosen understand that the waiting seasons hold treasures that abundance alone cannot give. You begin to see that not all closed doors are rejection. They are protection. God hides you when he is building something holy within you. He lets certain opportunities pass not because you were unworthy, but because he was saving you for something greater. Every delay, every detour, every disappointment is a thread in the tapestry of divine timing. During these times, faith becomes more than a word. It becomes the breath that sustains you when everything else fades. You learn to walk by trust and not by sight. You discover that true faith is not believing when you see the evidence. It is believing when everything in you wants to give up. The chosen learn to worship even when there is no miracle, to stand when there is no strength, to praise when the heart aches. These moments forge a faith that cannot be shaken by circumstance. God is never late, he is always precise. The process may feel long, but it is perfectly timed to align your heart with his will. Sometimes the process isolates you. Friends fade away, opportunities disappear. You are left alone with God, and in that solitude, you encounter who you really are. Without the noise of the world, you begin to hear the gentle voice of the Spirit reminding you of who you were created to be. You realize that divine silence is not empty. It is filled with whispers of wisdom and revelation. The chosen ones learn the dark, what others only understand in the light. They are trained to walk in faith when sight fails. When the process stretches longer than you hoped, remember that even gold must pass through fire before it shines. Every test is evidence of your value. God only prunes what he intends to multiply. The pain of pruning is the price of growth, and every tear shed in obedience will return as a harvest of joy. The chosen are never destroyed in the process. They are refined until nothing false remains. When the time finally comes and the promise unfolds, you will understand why it had to take this long. You will realize that the waiting was not punishment, but preparation for abundance too great to imagine. Faith is the bridge between the promise and its fulfillment. It is the final step before abundance flows, the unseen key that unlocks what your efforts alone could never reach. Many try to fight, strive, and push their way into blessings, But God's chosen ones learn that faith, not force, is what opens heaven's doors. The kingdom of God operates on a different rhythm. It does not move by anxiety or desperation, but by trust. When you finally release your need to control, when you stop trying to understand every detail, you make room for God to move in ways beyond your imagination. Faith is not the absence of effort. It is the surrender of fear. It is the deep knowing that what God has spoken over your life will come to pass, even if nothing around you looks like it yet. To walk in faith means to walk blind to the world but clear in spirit. It means choosing belief when logic fails, choosing peace when storms rise, and choosing obedience when nothing makes sense. The final step before overflow is not about doing more but believing deeper. You can pray fast and plan, but until your heart fully rests in the assurance of God's goodness, you will still live in striving. Faith invites rest. It whispers that the work is already done, that the promise is already written, that the outcome is already secured in heaven. The chosen ones understand that they are not trying to earn favor. They already have it. They are not chasing blessings. They are aligning with what has already been promised. There comes a moment in every believer's journey when faith is tested not by failure, but by silence. It is easy to believe when miracles are visible, but true faith is proven in the stillness where God seems distant. That is where you learn to lean on His character instead of your circumstances. The final step of faith is complete surrender, the point where you let go of the need to see results and simply say, God, I trust you even here. That kind of faith moves mountains because it moves you first. It lifts you out of fear, doubt, and self-dependence, placing you firmly in divine confidence. Faith transforms how you see everything. Where others see delay, you see divine timing. Where others see endings, you see preparation for new beginnings. Faith allows you to live from the promise instead of toward it. It is not waiting for the blessing to appear before celebrating. It is praising because you know it's already yours. This is the kind of faith that Abraham had when he walked into the unknown, the kind that Noah carried when he built an ark before the rain, the kind that Mary held when she said yes to something beyond human understanding. Every great move of God begins with a heart that dares to believe the impossible. Faith is also the doorway to abundance because it attracts the presence of God. Wherever faith stands strong, heaven responds. It is written that without faith it is impossible to please God, not because He demands perfection, but because faith shows trust, and trust is love in action. When you trust Him completely, you stop begging for signs and start walking as if the miracle has already happened. The chosen ones reach a point where their words, actions, and hearts agree with heaven's promises. They no longer pray from lack but from gratitude. They no longer live from fear but from fulfillment. When faith becomes your atmosphere, abundance cannot be withheld. Heaven releases what is already yours because your heart is now ready to receive it. You begin to notice divine alignment in places that once felt chaotic. Opportunities come not because you chased them, but because you believed they would find you. The final step before overflow is not labor but trust. God is not waiting for you to perform perfectly. He is waiting for you to believe completely. Faith is the final door that leads from waiting into receiving, from hope into manifestation, from promise into overflow. The ways of God are not bound by the logic of this world. Heaven operates on a rhythm that defies human understanding. While the world measures abundance by possessions, status, and outward success, God defines it through peace, love, and the quiet strength that endures when everything else fades. There is an economy in heaven that cannot be explained by numbers or reason, and those who are chosen must learn to live by it. In that divine economy, giving multiplies, surrender becomes strength, and loss often leads to gain. To live in alignment with heaven's order means to let go of the calculations of the mind and trust the mysteries of faith. It means believing that God's blessings flow not through effort alone, but through obedience and belief. When you walk in this understanding, you begin to see that abundance is not just something you hold in your hands, but something that first fills your spirit. The overflow of heaven starts as peace that nothing can disturb, as joy that survives sorrow, as love that cannot be diminished. These invisible riches are the true treasures of the chosen ones. They are the foundation upon which every visible blessing rests. The world chases the appearance of success, but heaven gives the substance of fulfillment. You may not always see the evidence of prosperity around you, but when you carry the peace of God within, you already walk in abundance. God's economy is also one of reversal. The last become first, the humble are exalted, the meek inherit the earth. It does not follow the patterns of earthly kingdoms. The chosen learn that the way up is often down, that to receive they must first release, and that to gain they must first give. When you live by faith, you no longer fear lack, because you know your source never runs dry. You stop measuring your life by what you have and begin to see it through what you carry: grace, faith, and divine favor. These are currencies that never lose their value. The chosen understand that when heaven opens a door, no earthly power can close it, and when God declares abundance, no circumstance can silence it. To grasp heaven's abundance, one must first be free from the world's fear of scarcity. Fear says there is not enough, but faith says God is more than enough. Fear looks at the empty jar. Faith looks at the God who multiplies oil. Fear counts what is missing. Faith praises what remains. Every miracle in Scripture began with someone who trusted the invisible. The widow gave her last bit of flour, and heaven multiplied it. The disciples placed 2 fish and 5 loaves in Jesus' hands, and thousands were fed. These stories remind us that God does not need much to create overflow. He only needs faith. What you have may look small, but in His hands it becomes more than enough. Living by heaven's economy means learning to see abundance in every season. It means recognizing that God's blessings are not limited to wealth or material success. When your heart is full of gratitude, when you wake up with peace and rest in hope, you are already walking in divine overflow. Even in scarcity, the chosen can smile, because they know God's promises do not expire. What looks like a delay in the natural realm may already be released in the spiritual. You may not see it yet, but heaven has already declared it done. The greatest wealth a believer can hold is trust in God's provision. Once that trust takes root, everything else follows. Doors open, favor flows, and opportunities align, not because you chased them, but because faith positioned you to receive them. God's abundance is not fragile. It does not depend on markets, opinions, or conditions. It flows from an eternal source that never runs dry. When you walk in the awareness of heaven's economy, you stop striving and start resting. You no longer worry about how, when, or where, because you know who your provider is. This is the secret of divine abundance. It is not earned by striving, but revealed through trust. And once you understand this truth, overflow becomes your natural state of being. There comes a moment in every believer's journey when God calls for a complete change of mindset. The chosen ones cannot walk into new abundance while holding on to old beliefs of scarcity, fear, and limitation. The shift from scarcity to overflow begins in the heart long before it appears in the hand. God cannot pour new wine into old wineskins because the old will burst under the weight of the new. The same truth applies to your spiritual life. If you continue to see yourself as limited, unworthy, or forgotten, you cannot receive the full measure of what heaven has prepared. God is not withholding blessings. He is waiting for your heart to expand to the size of His promise. The mindset of scarcity whispers that you are not enough, that there is never enough, that blessings are distant and reserved for others. But the truth of the kingdom declares that everything you need given, that you are fully supplied, and that God's abundance is not selective, but overflowing for those who believe. The transformation from scarcity to overflow happens when you stop focusing on what is missing and start recognizing what is already present. Gratitude becomes the soil in which abundance grows. Many wait for miracles before they give thanks, but the chosen give thanks before they see miracles. That act of faith changes everything. When you thank God for what seems small, you are declaring that you trust His ability to multiply it. When you speak life into what seems barren, you are aligning your words with heaven's power. Scarcity begins to lose its grip the moment faith replaces fear. God cannot move freely in a heart consumed by worry, but He fills the one that rests in trust. This shift is not only about material things, but about identity. Those who live in scarcity see themselves as servants begging for provision, while those who live in overflow see themselves as children, sitting at the Father's table. You are not pleading for crumbs. You are invited to feast. The chosen understand that they are heirs to divine inheritance, not beggars on the sidelines of grace. When this truth becomes real within you, your prayers change. You stop asking out of desperation and start declaring with confidence. You no longer look at what you lack, but at who your provider is. This is the moment when heaven's abundance begins to manifest visibly, not because God suddenly decided to bless you, but because your faith finally aligned with His eternal will. The enemy of overflow is doubt, and doubt thrives in the soil of scarcity. Every time you question your worth or fear that your season has passed, you give scarcity power. But when you renew your mind with God's truth, you silence those lies. You begin to see delay as divine timing, loss as redirection, and challenges as preparation for greater blessings. You no longer live in reaction to circumstances, but in response to promises. The chosen ones carry an atmosphere of abundance because they think, speak, and live from the revelation that God's supply is endless. To live in overflow means to carry peace in the midst of uncertainty, to give even when you feel empty, and to trust even when the outcome is unseen. This shift transforms not only what you receive, but who you become. You turn from a seeker into a channel, from one who waits into one who walks in faith. When you truly believe that abundance has already been released, your actions begin to reflect that truth. You give more freely, love more deeply, and live more courageously. The chosen ones understand that overflow is not a future event, it is a present reality that begins with renewed belief. When you release the old patterns of lack and embrace the divine truth of sufficiency, heaven's river begins to flow without resistance. The final transformation happens when you stop striving to earn blessings and start living as though you already have them. For in the eyes of God, abundance is not coming, it has already arrived. Beloved ones, as we stand at this sacred moment together, let your hearts awaken to the truth that has been spoken over your life since the beginning of time. You are not forgotten, not wandering, and not waiting for permission to walk into abundance. You are chosen, sealed, and destined to carry heaven's light into this world. Every trial, every delay, every tear has been a part of divine preparation. You have not been walking in circles, you have been walking through refinement. The fire that once frightened you has shaped you into someone who can hold the weight of glory. What once looked like loss was actually the clearing of space for God's abundance to enter. This is the final step, the threshold between what was and what will now be. You were never meant to live in fear or in the shadow of limitation. The God who called you from the dust also breathed purpose into your soul. The one who began this good work in you has no intention of leaving it unfinished. From this moment on, abundance is not something you chase, it is something you carry. Overflow is not a distant dream, but a present reality waiting for your faith to receive it. You are not standing on the edge of uncertainty. You are standing at the doorway of divine fulfillment. The heavens are open, the promises are alive, and the time is now. Let your spirit rise above the noise of doubt. Remember that abundance begins in the unseen long before it appears in the visible. The peace that now fills your heart is proof that heaven has already moved on your behalf. You are stepping into a season where favor will follow you, where blessings will find you, and where everything that was once lost will return multiplied. The waiting season has served its purpose. The wilderness has finished its work. Now begins the season of fruitfulness, of answered prayers, and of overflowing joy. Walk in confidence, for you are not moving by your strength, but by divine promise. Carry this truth wherever you go. The abundance God gives is not only for you, but through you. You are a vessel of overflow, meant to bring light to others, to lift the weary, and to speak hope into broken hearts. Every blessing that touches your life carries a purpose beyond you. Let generosity, love, and faith become the language of your soul. Live as one who knows that heaven's supply will never run dry. The same hand that called you chosen will continue to guide you, provide for you, and bless you beyond measure. And so, with hearts full of gratitude, we say thank you, Lord. Thank you for calling us when we felt unworthy. Thank you for refining us when we could not understand. Thank you for trusting us with the weight of your promises. Thank you for abundance, for peace, for overflow that knows no end. We thank you not only for what has come, but for what is on the way, for the unseen miracles already written into our story. To everyone listening, remember this: you have crossed the line from waiting to walking, from hoping to receiving, from scarcity to divine overflow. This is your moment, this is your time, and the best is yet to come. Thank you, and may the grace and abundance of God overflow in every part of your life from this moment forward.